Hi, it's Neil Sean here on Your Entertainment News. We have a real treat for you today where we meet two legends in the form of
Stephen Triffitt,
Mark Adams.
who both star in
Sinatra's Concerts at the Sands.
That's Amore.
playing, of course, Mr. Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. Remember though, boys?
If you miss it, you miss out.
Don't miss these two gorgeous hunks today on Your Entertainment News. I've got to ask you both this question that intrigues me. We'll ask you first, Stephen. When did you realise, I'm guessing everybody asked you this, but when did you realise that not only could you perform like Frank Sinatra, but you looked like him as well? I mean, you really looked like him for me.
On a karaoke. Years ago, I was selling timeshare in Tenerife, and a friend of mine had opened up a karaoke bar, and I said that I'd help him and do the old karaoke comparing thing. And I think it was my night off, actually. And I got very drunk and sang New York, New York. And everybody kind of went, that sounded a bit like Frank Sinatra. And then they started looking at me a little strangely and going, actually, you know, from a certain angle, if you just half close your eyes in a dark room, you look a bit like him as well. So that's pretty much how it started.
And
Just
then
from
you
that.
did Stars in Your Eyes.
Then I
which-
did Stars in the Eyes.
I mean,
which was-
just to recap, because there's a few years when that show was on.
Yeah.
Massive show, primetime Saturday night, millions of viewers.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking?
It was because Stars in the Rise, if you remember, I mean, the way you entered the stage was through the smoky doors. You know, those doors just opened and you walked out through this puff of smoke and you were literally on the other side in total darkness. And you had somebody there that just went, walk now. And that was it. And you had to walk, and just before you hit the doors, they opened. And then you couldn't see anything for about 3 seconds because you were just in this cloud of smoke. And then you saw the steps that you had to totter down and walk up to Matthew Kelly, who it was when I did it. So, tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Frank Sinatra.
What I find incredible with you is that you kind of, then again, by default, just found out, because you're an actor as well as a singer, but you're an actor who found that you could take off a legend. So how did that work for you? I mean, you know...
Well, it was like auditioning for any other part, and I auditioned for the Rat Pack at the same time that Stephen came into it, and we hit it off straight away. And I was sort of slightly in awe of Stephen, the fact that he'd been doing this role and nailed it absolutely, you know, both with appearance and voice. So it was kind of, he set the bar, and I had to bring the bar up there. And I think over the course of the ensuing months, that's what we did. I think we took it to a place that it had never been before, and I think justifiably we got it into the West End, and we were hugely proud of it. But if someone had said to me back then, you know, you'll still be associated in some way or shape or form with this role 7 years down the line, I said, you're mad, I'm an actor, I don't do things like that. But it's such a thrill, and I think Stephen would sort of confirm this as well, it's such a thrill to be playing those guys, and such an honour, and we sort of paid them a huge amount of respect. I wouldn't say it's a tribute show, because we take it way beyond that. But we
you're lost in your performances. You don't.
Well, I hope
think,
so.
well, this
That's
is,
what we're trying
yeah.
to create, and I think we feel some kind of responsibility to those people. I mean, Stephen's met Tina Sinatra, I've met Dina Martin, and when you actually meet, you know, their kith and kin, and they give it the seal of approval.
Is that quite freaky,
oh,
though?
that was huge. That was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're wondering, aren't you, whether you must be thinking, is there any bit they don't like of a tick or a click that I do, you know?
And they must have seen so many people do it over the
yeah.
years, but they were hugely complimentary, because I think, again, we approach it from a slightly different angle. And yeah,
Tina was just...
I've just kept in touch, you know. It's hugely, you know, she told me some great stories about Uncle Frank and Elvis Presley. I think, I can't believe this, you know.
When you see people, ex-doctors, and they come and see you as Dean Martin, what do they think to you? Nicely, of course.
Oh, I think it's great because everyone loves this sort of music. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a huge collection of Sinatra stuff, but I didn't own a single Dean record. I mean, my collection now is phenomenal, both on what I've managed to sort of, get over the years, and people sending me things. Also, what was the basis for my That's Amore show was the Dean Martin television variety show, which was absolutely phenomenal in its time. So when people come and see it, I mean, they say, oh, good on you, mate, because, I remember when we were in the States and we had a great success over there, people were coming over and said, man, you live in the dream, you live in the dream. We were doing, what loads and loads of people would love to do, for a couple of hours a night. We drink, carouse and embody these icons.
Let's just get a couple of myths. The cigarettes, are they real?
They can be or they can't be, depending on which theatre you go to. I didn't used to smoke until I did this show. The alcohol is not.
Most of the time.
Although, we have had the odd libation, but, right at the end of the show when we're just sort of, singing the last couple of songs.
It all goes downhill from there kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But, the cigarettes, there's, during that show, there are, I think there's three different types of cigarettes. They've got extra strength and they're super lights, and then you have the fake ones. So depending upon who it is that's playing what role and when, they go for whichever glass it is that they prefer. So that's the way it works.
We've got these cigarettes now that you can blow.
Yeah.
The electric
Yes.
one, you blow.
Yeah.
Don't suck, blow.
So, when you look at the people that you are playing, and you look at their background and their lives, I mean, both full lives, incredibly full. Do you kind of now know so much about them that you imagine if you went to Mastermind, say, Stephen, could you answer, like, if they throw questions and they said, who was Frank married to between X and Y period? Would you know all of that?
I wouldn't.
that's interesting.
I wouldn't. I've been told an awful lot of stuff by people who knew Frank, and heard a lot of stories from people who didn't really know him, and then there's, an infinite number of books out there about him and his lifestyle and his supposed connections, with one group or another and so on. What I've learned is enough to be able to get into the character and enough to be able to sing the songs. I mean, I was singing the songs anyway before I even dreamt that I would ever be doing this for a living. So I know enough, and that's all I really need to know, really. I mean, it's the character. His character is similar enough to mine for me to be able to almost be me on the stage and get away with it in terms of people thinking, well, that's Frank. Yeah. However, I mean, in my show at the moment, in the first act I'm me, and in the second act I'm Frank. And I always thought it was pretty much the same thing, but people have said, oh, there's a very great difference between you being you and you being Frank, which I was not even aware of. So something must happen that I'm so unaware of now.
Spirits. Boys, it's been a real pleasure to meet you both.
It's been great to be here.
Continued success with your solo shows, and do come back and see us again very
Love to.
soon.
Thank you
And thanks so
very
much
much.
for
Cheers.
performing.
Thank
Real
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Trivett, and of course the gorgeous Mr. Mark Adams, who play, without further ado, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. Remember though, boys?
If you miss it, you miss out.
We'll do that again.
That's good. You've got to keep that one in. That's
Yeah, we'll leave that one, but we'll do it again for a clean one. Are we ready, Mr. S?
We're selling the wrong show. We're not